Chango chango ज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं यादवैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितान् नमामि कृष्णपादाय कृष्णकृष्णाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिधि नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशधारिणे नमो महावदन्याय कृष्ण प्रेम प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नामिने गौरद्विषे नमः। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत श्री राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी श्री राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये नीलाचल निवासाय नित्याय परमात्मने बलभद्र सुभद्राभ्यां श्री जगन्नाथाय ते नमः। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यः पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौरवैतरण्य हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। मुखं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरो दीनतारिणे परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्यमीश्वरम्। Hare Krishna. We are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 3, text 16 onwards, 1 6. So Yamaraja instructs his messengers. Yam vaina gobhir manas shubhirva हृदाङ्गिरवासु भृतो विचक्षते आत्मानम् अन्तर्हृदि सन्तमात्मानम् चक्षुर्यथैवक्कृतयस्तथा परम्। As the different limbs of the body cannot see the eyes, the living entities cannot see the Supreme Lord, who is situated as the super soul in everyone's heart, not by the senses, by the mind, by the life air, by thoughts within the heart, or by the vibration of words, can the living entities ascertain the real situation of the Supreme Lord. Purpose. Although the different parts of the body do not have the power to see the eyes, although the different parts of the body do not have the power to see the eyes direct the movements of the body's different parts. The legs move forward because the eyes see what is in front of them, and the hand touches because the eyes see touchable entities. Similarly, every living being acts according to the direction of the Supersoul, who is situated within the heart, as the Lord Himself confirms in Bhagavad Gita 15.15. सर्वस्य चाहं हृदि सन्निविष्टो मत्तस्मृतिर्ज्ञानमपोहनं च. I am sitting in everyone's heart and giving directions for remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. Elsewhere in Bhagavad Gita it is stated, Ishvara sarva bhutana hrideshe ardhana tishtati. The Supreme Lord as the Super Soul is situated within the heart. The living entity cannot do anything without the sanction of the Super Soul. The Super Soul is acting at every moment, but the living entity cannot understand the form and activities of the Super Soul by manipulating his senses. The example of the eyes and the bodily limbs is very appropriate. If the limbs could see, they could walk forward without the help of the eyes, but that is impossible. Although one cannot see the Super Soul in one's heart through the sensual activities, his direction is necessary. As the different limbs of the body cannot see the eyes, the living entities cannot see the Supreme Lord who is situated as the Super Soul in everyone's heart, not by the senses, by the mind, by the life air, by thoughts within the heart, but by the vibrations of the words, can the living entities ascertain the real situation of the Supreme Lord. Srila Prabhupada is explaining how this analogy of the eyes and the body is so very replete and perfect. By design and constitution, all the limbs of the body they do not have the power to see. If they had the if they had the power to see, the eyes would not be needed. But they don't have the power to see. This power is with the eyes, and therefore the senses can work perfectly. The senses can work perfectly when they follow the directions of the eyes. In case of the body, that very naturally happens. The eye is direct, and the senses just follow. It happens very naturally. But when it comes to us, our natural position is also to follow the directions of the Lord. When we fall off from our natural position, then one is completely blind simply to face accidents and get hurt at every step. Or then we become completely blind, there are no directions. So the directions can only come from the eye. Similarly, what is auspicious, what is not auspicious can only be ascertained by the Supreme Lord. So therefore, one of the definitions, that which is auspicious, that which elevates one from the waves of the material miseries, that is what is called a dharma. And therefore, the principal injunction is the dharma is only enacted out by the Supreme Lord. Dharmam tu sakshat bhagavat pranitam. So now in this point is said, Dharmam tu sakshat bhagavat pranitam. The presence and the principles of Dharma are given and enunciated by the Supreme Lord. Why? Because it is only the Supreme Lord who has the eyes, who can give us a direction. So what is auspicious can be ascertained by the Supreme Lord. Because our position is relative, so our calculation of what is good, what is bad is also relative. We may calculate something to be good at one stage, uh, but that calculation may not prove to be true when the situation changes. So, so our decisions and calculations are very much relative to the situation we are in, to how we perceive the situation we are in, and the very limitations of how much we can grasp and understand. So, therefore, what is auspicious has to be enunciated by the Lord. And that is why the living entity is described by the Shastra as a dependent enjoyer. And the living entity enjoy? Yes. But only when the living entity awakens and unleashes one's dependence on the Supreme. When a living entity falls off from his position of dependence on the Supreme Lord, then the living entity cannot enjoy. Does a dependent enjoy? So the dependent enjoy means only when the prerequisite of the dependence is followed, then only the enjoyment can happen. Otherwise, there is no question of enjoyment. Mm. So the Supreme Lord is directing everything here it is being said. Bhagavad Gita 13:23, the Lord now describes this very position of the Lord. Upadrishtanu mantacha bharta bhokta mahishwara paramatmeti chapi yukto dehesmin purusha para. So it says that yes, in this body there is the Paramatma, the Super Soul, the Supreme Lord, who is the supreme overseer, the proprietor, the controller, and who gives permission. He only grants permission. He is the permitter. Without his sanction, nothing can move. Just okay, without the Lord's sanction, not a blade of grass moves. So the Lord's sanction. He is the Paramatma. The Lord is manifesting in each one of the Jiva's body. So therefore, this dependence of the Jiva on the Supreme Lord is the only criteria which is needed for the Jiva to realize his or her completeness. In whatever situation one is in, or with whatever subtle and gross incompleteness of design one has, in terms of inabilities and deficiency in the subtle body and physical body. The only thing which is needed, the only criteria for perfection is to awaken the dependence on the Supreme. So therefore, as a sadhaka, one has to be very alert. So here it has been explained that the Supreme Lord, the Super Soul, can never be understood or seen through the mind, through the mental speculation, through the thought process, through the intelligence. The Lord can never be seen. In fact, the Jiva can never see the Supreme Lord. That is not possible. But the Supreme Lord, out of His mercy, reveals Himself when the Jiva is having a heart filled with bhakti. Therefore, the Lord says, Bhaktya mam abhijanati yavan yasyasmi tattvataha. Only by bhakti can I be understood. By no other means I can be understood. So the Lord is a Lord's mercy. And the Lord is revealing Himself in front of us. This is Lord's mercy. The Jiva as such doesn't have the power to reach the Supreme. Like a child can never touch the forehead of an elephant. Child doesn't have that power. A baby elephant is only 12 feet high. A giant elephant will be 25, 30 feet height. The child can never touch. Child is 3 feet, 4 feet. But the elephant can pick up the child and place him on his head. And then the child can touch the forehead of the elephant. So unless a Lord enables and reveals and picks up the living entity, that means raises the consciousness of the living entity, the living entity can never reach, touch the Supreme Lord. So similar when the mother and father they pick up the child, then only the child can touch the face of the father or the mother. Otherwise, cannot. It is out of reach. That is the point. The eternal foundational principle is the dependence of the jiva on the Lord. That makes all the inabilities, that makes up for all the inabilities. That makes everything perfect. That's the point. Let's read further. तस्यात्मतन्त्रस्य हरे अतिसितो परास्य मायाधिपतेर्महात्मना रायेण दूत इह वै मनोहरा चरन्ति तद्रूपगुणस्वभावा The Supreme Personality of Godhead is self-sufficient and fully independent. He is the master of everyone and everything, including the illusory energy. He has his form, qualities, and features, and similarly, his order carriers, the Vaishnavas, who are very beautiful, possess bodily features, transcendental qualities, and a transcendental nature, almost like his. They always wander within this world with full independence. But Yamaraj was describing the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supreme Controller. But the order carriers of Yamaraj were all very eager to know about the Vishnudutas who had defeated them in their encounter with the Jamila. Yamaraj therefore stated that the Vishnudutas resemble the Supreme Personality of Godhead in their bodily features, transcendental qualities, and nature. In other words, the Vishnudutas or Vaishnavas are almost as qualified as the Supreme Lord. Yamaraj informed the Yamadutas that the Vishnudutas are no less powerful than Lord Vishnu. Since Vishnu is above Yamaraj, the Vishnudutas are above the Yamadutas. Persons protected by the Vishnudutas therefore cannot be touched by the Yamadutas. In this very beautiful description which is being given here, Srila Yamaraj is glorifying the Supreme Lord and the devotees of the Lord. So the Supreme Lord is independent. When the Supreme Lord initiates and we accept and follow, everything is auspicious. But when we start taking the role of the initiator, everything becomes toxic because we are dependent energy. So creating auspiciousness in this material world is not difficult. As soon as we follow the principles and the injunctions given by the Lord and the Acharyas, in this material world of misfortune, immediately auspiciousness is created. Then why is a living entity suffering in this world? Not because of the Lord, simply because of one's own false ego. Our suffering is due to our false ego, not the Supreme Lord. We cannot blame saying that the material world is a place of suffering. Just like a person cannot blame that there is ocean everywhere. What do I am in the midst of the ocean? But if the ship is provided to you, why do you sit in the ship peacefully? If somebody is not sitting in the ship and then trying and crying, that there is ocean everywhere, what to do, how to do. And the ship is given to you to cross the ocean. So why keep crying? Problem is not the arrangement. The problem is false ego. The misery creating element is the false ego, not the material world. But Krishna is giving solution to the material world. Material world is miserable. Yes. But by the way, material world is miserable only for a person who is attached, materially attached. For a person who is a devotee of the Lord, material world is not a miserable place. The statement is also relative to the conditioned soul. Material world is dukhalyam with respect to the conditioned soul. For a devotee of the Lord, material world is not dukhalyam. Vishwam Purna Sukhayate. Srila Prabodhananda Saraswati Thakur explains that this world, everywhere there is happiness. How can there be happiness everywhere? If the heart is lusty greedy, then there is no happiness anywhere in this world. Because one will see anything, everything, and one will want it and one want to enjoy, but that is not allowed. In between, there are so many obstacles. A lot of miseries are there. And even if one gets it, it won't last for long. But if one's mind and heart is fixed to the lotus feet of the Lord and the pleasure of the Lord, then whatever one gets, one will offer it to the Lord. And what one is getting, one is not much fussy about it. And how much? So the point is, the item may be temporary, but the offering is eternal. So there is no problem for a devotee. Like you offer flowers to the Lord, it's temporary. After one day, it won't, it will shrivel up. The item is temporary, but the offering is eternal. So we have offered it, the Lord has accepted it. That's it. That offering will now remain in our eternal, and it is stored in our eternal directory. Okay, that offering of the heart and that purification, the awakening of love which it creates, that is eternal. This is the greatest investment strategy. Invest the temporary into the eternal and get eternal benefit. Anyway, the temporary would have got lost. You offer it to Krishna, we get eternal awakening. So, the Supreme Lord is independent. Now the Yamaraj explains that the devotees, the Vishnu Bhaktas, they are basically representatives of the Supreme Lord. So they share the same power, same mood, the same nature, same qualities, the same opulence. Case of the Vishnu Bhaktas, they had the same opulence also as Lord Vishnu, the same bodily form. And same nature, not only just the external bodily form, same nature, same qualities. That is why even Ajamil was very much touched by the darshan and the presence of the Vishnudutas. And that became a very solid pulling attraction for Ajamila. We read about Ajamila's repentance, the last chapter. But Ajamila was able to create such a determined with such a determination, he was able to execute his devotional practices. That was very much, in one sense, owing to the amazing his attraction towards the Vishnu. It's not only their bodily forms, but their behavior, their mercy, their gentleness. All that touched him very profusely. And that opened up his eyes and he was able to see how he had been wasting all his life. So that was very interesting.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes,
Prabhu, as you have mentioned that material world is filled with misery and it is Dukhalyam. At the same, and for the devotees, for the pure devotees, as you have quoted Vishram Purnam Sukhayate by Prabhupada Saraswati. But at the same time, you also see from the Acharya's song and Acharya's writings that, they say that this material world is filled with misery. We should go back home, back to Godhead and serve there. So if you can make it a little bit more understandable, go a little bit.
it was a song the Acharyas have written for us, therefore they are writing.
Okay.
For the Acharyas, there is no difference between material and spiritual world. Discrepancy exists from the conditioned soul point of view. Discrepancy is not there for the acharyas, they are existing in the spiritual world. Rupa Goswami is sitting, Raghunath Das Goswami is sitting here in Bhaume Vrindavan and he is tasting the kheer made by Radharani in the Goloka festival. And Rup Sanatan are getting the kheer which Radharani made. Sitting in the material world, they are eating the kheer preparation in the spiritual world. How is it possible? Because they are not staying in the material world. So when one's consciousness has evolved, even while being in a material body, the consciousness is exists now enters the spiritual world. So that is why for them they can say Vishwam Purna Sukhayate because there is no material world for them. So their consciousness is parallelly existing in the spiritual world. They are just operating a material body, but their consciousness is very much in the pastimes of the Lord. So that's what happened to the Acharyas. So therefore, for them, Vishwam Purna Sukhayate. But from a conditioned point of view, material world is very much limiting. Because conditioning means one will want material desires, material attachments, and this supply is not given, and the supply is very restricted, and whatever is supplied also doesn't exist for long. So one will be absolutely miserable. But Krishna is such a commodity, or no connection to Krishna is such a rare gift that it won't go away, no matter whatever one does. So therefore, Vishwam Purna Sukha, like that. So what we should do? We cannot imitate. We cannot imitate Raghunath Das Goswami, Rupa Goswami. So it is better for us to be captivated by the idea of going back home, back to Godhead. Because the Acharya, the pure devotees, they are basically their consciousness is in the spiritual world. So they are already back to Godhead and they are roaming around. That means they are carrying Godhead with them. They are carrying Godhead with them. Therefore, it is said Tirthe Kurvanti Tirtha. Where is the Tirtha? Wherever the lotus feet of pure devotees fall, that is the Tirtha. Because they are carrying the spiritual world in their hearts. कृष्णा से तुम्हारा कृष्णा दिखे पारा तुम्हारा शक्ति आज. They're carrying Krishna in their heart. So just like the song of Bilavangal Thakur, so he's capturing Krishna in his heart, and wherever he's roaming, that is Vrindavan, that is Goloka. So if he wants, he can make anybody enter Goloka. That is the Krishna se tumhara Krishna dikhte par tumhara shakti achi. They have that power. They can be नामी तो कंगाल कृष्ण कृष्ण बोले धई तब पाछे. So the pure devotees are like that. But this is a very great lesson for a sadhaka, also a practicing devotee, that when when outside people look at us, they should be able to get a reflection of the Supreme Lord. So, so this is a responsibility every devotee has to reflect the grace, the nature, the qualities of the Supreme Lord. So, how sincere we should be in our practice, so that uh, when outside people they interface us, they get some reflection of the acharyas and the Supreme Lord. So we have to reflect the same nature of the Supreme Lord, not just radiate anything and everything. That is a let's read further. भूतानि विष्णु सुरपूजितानि दुर्दर्शलिङ्गानि महाभूतानि रक्षन्ति तद्भक्तिमतः परेभ्यो मत्तस्य मत्तस्मर्तयान् अथ सर्वतश्च the order carriers of Lord Vishnu, who are worshipped even by the demigods, possess wonderful bodily features, exactly like those of Vishnu, and are very rarely seen. The Vishnudutas protect the devotees of the Lord from the hands of the enemies, from envious persons, and even from my jurisdiction, as well as from natural disturbances. Bhagavad. Yamaraj has specifically described the qualities of the Vishnudutas to convince his own servants not to be envious of them. Yamaraj warned the Yamadutas that the Vishnudutas are worshipped with respectful obeisances by the demigods and are always very alert to protect the devotees of the Lord from the hands of enemies, from natural disturbances, and from all the dangerous conditions in this material world. Sometimes the members of the Krishna conscious society are afraid of the impending danger of world war and ask what would happen to them if a war should occur. In all kinds of danger, they should be confident of their protection by the Vishnudutas or the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, Kaunteya pratijanihi na me bhakta pranashyati. Material danger is not meant for devotees. This is also confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam. Padam padam yat vipadam natesha. In this material world, there are dangers at every step, but they are not meant for devotees who have fully surrendered unto the lotus feet of the Lord. The pure devotees of Lord Vishnu may rest assured of the Lord's protection. And as long as they are in the material world, they should fully engage in devotional service by preaching the cult of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Lord Krishna, namely the Hare Krishna movement of the Krishna consciousness. Srila Prabhupada is giving a beautiful purport. Srila Prabhupada is explaining and how Yamaraj is explaining the position and the qualities of the Vishnudutas. And Yamaraj is trying to elaborately explain why there is no need to be envious of the Vishnudutas. So why not? They are having more power, they are having more opulence, they are having more beauty. Why not be envious of them? Two reasons. First, there is no competition between the jivas and the eternally liberated souls. There is no competition. Conditioned soul can never be like a conditioned soul can never be like the pure devotees, the residents of the spiritual world. Can never be, never be. Impossible. Why? Because the pure devotees, the residents of the spiritual world, are having the powers of the Supreme Lord. And therefore, there is no comparison, there is no competition when it comes to the residents of the spiritual world. So that is why it is said, Sakshat Vidvena Samasta Shastra. Here also, Srila Prabhupada is explaining that such residents of the spiritual world, they are as good as the Lord because the entire powers of the Lord are circulated in the residents. So no comparison, no competition. No, no, so, but this is uh, so there is eternal slavery. So it is an eternal curse. No, not at all. Because these residents of the spiritual world, the pure devotees also, all of them, although they are having the powers of the Supreme Lord, they are very powerful. So much so that the living entity can never compare to them from the conditioned platform. Can never compare to them and come equal to their level from the material platform. But these residents of the spiritual world are always wishing well for the jivas because they are wishing well. They are ready to offer all blessings and benedictions to a jiva who is favorably inclined to Krishna. Like how can one be envious of one's own father and mother? One will say, "Oh, father," because one knows my father's. How can one be envious of one's own father and mother? That is the point. Because whatever wealth the father has will naturally come to the son or the daughter. So what is the point here? What where is the point to be envious of? So whatever the father has comes to the son and the daughter. Similarly, similarly the mother, even the wealth of the mother. Whatever skill the father and mother have, the effects of those skills also come to the son. So what is the point in being envy? I mean, there is so everything is coming to the daughter and the son, the children. So then there is no question, there is no ground of envy there. It's the same thing, no? What the father, mother has. If mother is a very good cook, the son, the daughter need not be envious. Whatever she cooks will anyways come to the mother and the son, whether they know cooking or not. That is the point. So there is no ground for envy. Where is the competition? It's the same thing. The same thing. So whatever vibhuti the father and mother have will naturally come to the son and the daughter. There is no envy. So the Vishnu Dutas, the residents of the spiritual world, the pure devotee, they are like our father and mother. Where is the question of being envious? This is the point that the Yamaraj is trying to explain to the Yamadutas. So what is the point in being envious of your own father and mother? They are working for you. So therefore, Yamaraj is saying that these Vishnu Dutas, they are ready to protect the devotees of the Lord under any circumstance. Very alert to offer the protection to the devotees of the Lord. And they have the powers of the Lord. So therefore, the Vishnu Dutas, they are independent. They have the powers of the Lord. So they can create uh, like you see, we can see very clearly. Like you see, we are all able to do some preaching, something here and there, but not as much as what Srila Prabhupada could do. Okay, today in the Western world, there is very, I know where the preaching is very challenging. But Prabhupada times, how 10,000 people could become devotees? It's very phenomenal. So that's Prabhupada's magic. So that's the whole point. That the devotee of the Lord is also independent. They're not just any devotee of the Lord, pure devotees of the Lord are independent. That's the whole point. Pure devotee. They are independent. They have the power. Despite any situation, they can create a magic. Prabhupada did that. Srila Prabhupada did that. Let's read further. धर्मं तु साक्षात् भगवत् प्रणीतम् न वै विदुर्ऋषयो नापि देवा न सिद्धमुख्या असुरमानुष्या कुतो नु विद्याधरचारणाद्या Real religious principles are enacted by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Although fully situated in the mode of goodness, even the great rishis who occupy the topmost planets cannot ascertain the real religious principles, nor can the demigods or the leaders of the Siddhaloka, to say nothing of the asuras, ordinary human beings, Vidyadharas, Sharanas. जय श्री निताय चांद गौर चांद भगवान की जय। जय श्री जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुभद्रा महारानी हमारे प्रभुपाद की जय। When challenged by the Vishnudutas to describe the principles of religion, the Yamaduta said, Veda pranihito dharma. The religious principles are principles enacted in the Vedic literature. They did not know, however, that the Vedic literature contains ritualistic ceremonies that are not transcendental, but are meant to keep peace and order among the materialistic persons in the material world. Real religious principles are Nistraya Gunya, above the three modes of material nature or transcendental. The Yamadutas did not know these transcendental religious principles, and therefore, when prevented from arresting Ajamedar, they were surprised. Materialistic persons who attach all their faith to the Vedic rituals are described in Bhagavad Gita 2.42, wherein Krishna says, Vedava Agarata Partha Nanyat Astitivadinaha. Suppose followers of the Vedas say that there is nothing beyond the Vedic ceremonies. Indeed, there is a group of men in India who are very fond of the Vedic rituals, not understanding the meaning of these rituals, which are intended to elevate one gradually to the transcendental platform of knowing Krishna. Vedesha sarve rahame vedya. Those who do not know this principle, but who simply attach their faith to the Vedic rituals, are called Vedavadaratana. Herein it is stated that the real religious principle is that which is given by the Supreme Personality of God. That principle is stated in Bhagavad Gita, Sarva Dharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Braja. One should give up all other duties and surrender unto the lotus feet of Krishna. That is the real religious principle everyone should follow. Even though one follows Vedic scriptures, one may not know this transcendental principle, for it is not known to everyone. To say nothing of human beings, even the demigods in the upper planetary systems are unaware of it. This transcendental religious principle must be understood from the Supreme Personality of Godhead directly or from his spiritual special representative as stated in the next verse. Srila Prabhupada is making the point that yes, so they were questioned by the Vishnudutas. What are religious principle? They said Veda Pranihito Dharma. Presence of Dharma written in the Vedas. But that is the primary school level of understanding. Srila Prabhupada is explaining that they don't know the Vedas are mostly talking about material subject matters. Simply ritualistic ceremonies meant to bring the materialistic person somehow under the Vedic umbrella. So all this very much revolves around Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. And Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha is a merry-go-round. So following through Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, where does one land? It's a Ferris wheel. One doesn't land anywhere. It comes back to the same place. Tuck, 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 tuck. One is not going anywhere. Therefore, it is explained that even up till going to the Brahmajyoti, one has not gone anywhere. Why? Aruya Grichena Param Padam Tataha. One will fall down. Udantiyadu Yasmat Angraya. So, going up till the Brahma Jyoti means not going anywhere because one will go there, one will come down. Go there, come down. Go there, come down. What did one achieve? Nothing. Dharmartha Kama Moksha, any motion doesn't make any sense because motion, whatever moves one makes, it gets nullified. One comes back to the same place because merry-go-round. So even if one achieves what to say at the upper planetary systems, but even if one goes up till what to say Brahmaloka, even if one goes to Brahmajyoti, one has not achieved anything. One is at the same place. It's a Ferris wheel. So therefore, the Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha is of no use. Most of the Vedas are talking about Dharma, Artha, Kama. So Veda Pranihita Dharma is a very superficial understanding. The actual thing is Dharma to Sakshat Bhagavad Pranihita. So therefore, the understanding is that simply tossing around in the Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha, one seems, it appears that one is making some advancement, but that will be nullified because one is going a merry-go-round. So there is no use, it's simply wasting of time. So one has to come out of this. The only way to come out of this is by taking shelter of the process of it. If you see, this very section of Ajamila is being narrated as a case study to highlight this principle only. Traigunya Vishaya Veda Nisraigunya Bhava. So the Traigunya Vishaya Veda is a very cycle of ritualistic ceremonies which Parishit Maharaj is rejecting, saying that this is Kunja Rashoj. What is the use? How to get out permanently? That is what Parishit Maharaj wants to know. So to explain that, Sukadev Maharaj is speaking about that. Okay, how did the Achamilopakyan, which is whose main highlight and thrust is how by chanting the holy names of God, how by taking to the process of bhakti, one can get out of this dangerous Ferris wheel of Dharma Moksha. That's the point. Nistraygunyata bhavat. Yes, right. So this understanding is very rare and can only be imparted by the great devotee. And therefore it is said that a disciple can never repay the depth of the spiritual master. Because the Nisraygunya doesn't happen easily. For one to come to understand that he has to go out of this Ferris wheel and for one to recognize this Ferris wheel, for a sincere person it might take millions of lifetimes. Bahunam janmanam ante jnanavan mam prapadyate. Vasudeva sarvamiti samahatma sudurlabha. It may take millions of lifetimes for a serious person, sincere person, Jnanavan, to come to this point of understanding and conclusion that I need to get out of this Ferris wheel. Let's read further. स्वयंभो नारदः शम्भो कुमार कपिलो मनो प्रह्लादो जनको भीष्मो बलिर्वय्यासखिर्वयम् द्वादशैते विजानीनो नीमो धर्मन् भागवतां हताः गुह्यं विशुद्धं दुर्बोधं यं ज्ञात्वामृतमश्नुते Lord Brahma, Bhagavan Narada, Lord Shiva, the four Kumaras, Lord Kapila, the son of Devahuti, Swayambhu Manu, Prahlad Maharaj, Janak Maharaj, grandfather Bhishma, Bali Maharaj, Sukadev Goswami, and I myself know the real religious principles. My dear servant, this transcendental religious principle, which is known as Bhagavad Dharma or surrender unto the Supreme Lord and love for Him, is uncontaminated by the material modes of nature. It is very confidential and difficult for ordinary human beings to understand. But if by chance one fortunately understands it, he is immediately liberated, and thus he returns home back to God. But in the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna refers to Bhagavad Dharma as the most confidential religious principle. Sarva guhyatamam guhya guhyataram. Krishna says to Arjuna, because you are my very dear friend, I am explaining to you the most confidential religion. Sarvadharman parityajya mamam sharanam praja. Give up all the duties and surrender unto me. One may ask if this principle is very rarely understood, what is the use of it? In answer, the Yamaraj states herein that this religious principle is understandable if one follows the parampara system of Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, the four Kumaras, and the other standard authorities. There are four lines of disciplic succession, one from the Lord Brahma, one from Lord Vishnu, one from Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune, one from the Kumaras. The disciplic succession from Lord Brahma is called as the Brahma Sampradaya. The succession from Lord Shiva Shambhu is called as the Rudra Sampradaya. The one from the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, is called as the Shri Sampradaya. And the one from the Kumaras is called as the Kumar Sampradaya. One must take shelter of one of these four Sampradayas in order to understand the most confidential religious system. In the Padma Purana, it is stated, Sampradaya Vihina Mantraste Nishpalamataha. If one does not follow the four recognized disciplic successions, his mantra or initiation is useless. In the present day, there are many apasampradayas or sampradayas which are not bona fide, which have no link to authorities like Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, the Kumara, the Lakshmi. People are misguided by such sampradaya. जय श्री सीताय चांद बोल चांद भगवान की जय। श्री जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुभद्रा महारानी सुदर्शन महाराज श्री प्रभुपाद की जय। So people are misguided by such sampradaya. The Shastras say that being initiated in such a sampradaya is a useless waste of time, for it will never enable one to understand the real religious principles. Srila Prabhupada is beautifully explaining here that real religious principles are very rare and difficult to obtain from one's own standpoint or one's own individual endeavors. So we try to explore the the plane of bhakti, spirituality on one's own, one is bound to get bewildered and lost. It's very rare somebody can get it. When we say very rare, that means nobody will get it. But here Srila Yamaraj is explaining that which is impossible to get it on one's own strength and endeavor can be very easily obtained. If one follows the parampara. That is why Srila Yamaraj is describing the entire parampara. So if we just follow the injunctions of the Shastra of the Acharyas, so the Sarvadharman Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Bhaja is not well understood. And Prabhupada is speaking about the Sampradaya. That one follows one of these four Sampradayas, then one can get bhakti very easily. So that which is rare and impossible is very easily obtained simply by connecting to one of these four Sampradayas. Therefore, it is said Sampradaya Vihina Mantraste Nishvila Spriya. Okay, there is a question here in 1 km Raishampu QA. If a devotee sincerely chant or follow the rituals unknowingly, he can also go back to Jnana. So basically, the Lord guides such a devotee to forward. Uh, That you see, the first point is basically there is the Lord's guidance, and many times the Lord may guide one to a proper devotee source, and one may get connected to the proper devotee. Like many people, they were not knowing what the Rativism is all about much, and they were just following. But when they understood, they came back to Islam. So basically, how they will go back to Godhead, it is because of the Lord's direction. Most of the time, the Lord directs them to a proper devotee channel also. So to one who is innocent and gullible, Krishna will inspire him to get the right knowledge. And the right knowledge can make the right connections once again. That's the point. Yeah. So okay. So next question is on this verse. Bhunam Jamanamante. So for sincere and serious, it takes millions of years. It is due to non-bhakti path or due large cleaning requirement. Yeah, it is due to non-bhakti. One is not practicing bhakti, it will take millions of years. Why? Because see, the whole point is that jnani is serious and sincere. The jnani is not surrendered to the Supreme Lord, not dedicated to the Supreme Lord. The jnani is very much driving on his or her own power, and because he is driving on his or her own power, it takes millions of lifetimes. But when the devotee is not does not drive on his or her own power, the devotee drives on Krishna's power. So therefore, it is fast. Let's read further. Bro, this verse, there is no mention of Mother Lakshmi and the Mahajanas. Like for the all the 12 Mahajanas for Sampradaya, they are there. What is that? 12 Mahajanas are mentioned. Suppose Sampradayas, Mother Lakshmi is not there. What is that? Mother Lakshmi is not there in the 12 Mahajanas. But she is above the Mahajanas. No. She is above the Mahajanas. They are eternal consort of the Lord. All the Mahajanas are representatives of the Lord, but she is an eternal consort of the Lord. She is above the Mahajanas. The Lord represents the Lord himself. Yeah. Lord represents the Lord himself. Mhm. So while Lord is mentioned and the Mother Lakshmi is not mentioned. See, because this list is not exhaustive, this is just a sample list which is being given. So there are other pure devotees of the Lord whose name is not mentioned here. This is just a sample representative list. So Acharyas are infinite. Uh, 12 of them are mentioned. Like so when we say Mahajano Yena Gata Pantha, then we are not just referring to these 12, but to any bona fide uh, pure devotee of the Lord, Mahajano Yena. And in fact, any bona fide devotee is following these pure devotees. So Mahajano Yena Gata. एतवानेव लोक्यस्मिन् पुंसां धर्मपरास्मितः भक्तियोगो भगवती नामगृहणादिभिः. Devotional service beginning with the chanting of the holy names of the Lord is the ultimate religious principle for the living entity in human society. As stated in the previous verse, Dharman Bhagavatam, real religious principles are Bhagavad Dharma. The principles described in Srimad Bhagavatam itself or in the Bhagavad Gita, the preliminary study of the Bhagavatam. What are these principles? The Bhagavatam says, Dharma projita kaitava atra. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, there are no cheating religious systems. Everything in the Bhagavatam is directly connected with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Bhagavatam further says, Savai pumsam paradharmo tato bhakti rato kshate. The supreme religion is that which teaches its followers how to love the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is beyond the reach of experimental knowledge. Such a religious system begins with Tannama Grihanadivi, chanting of the holy names of the Lord, the Savanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Pada Sevanam. After the holy chanting the holy names of the Lord and dancing in ecstasy, one gradually sees the form of the Lord, the pastimes of the Lord, and the transcendental qualities of the Lord. This way, one fully understands the situation of the personality of Godhead. One can come to this understanding of the Lord, how he descends into the material world, how he takes his birth, and what activities he performs. But one can know this only by executing devotional service. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, Bhaktya Mama Vijanati, simply by devotional service can one understand everything about the Supreme Lord. If one, fortunately, understand the Supreme Lord in this way, the result is Tattva Deham Punarjanma Naiti. After giving up his material body, he no longer has to take birth in this material world. Instead, he returns home back to Godhead. That is the ultimate perfection. Therefore, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 8:15, Mamupetya punarjanma dukkhalayam ashashvatam napnuvanti mahatmana samsiddhim paramam gataha. After attaining me, the great souls who are yogis in devotion never return to this temporary world which is full of miseries because they have attained the highest perfection. So Srila Prabhupada is explaining here how the Bhagavatam, the message of the Bhagavatam is the Dharma and Bhagavatam, the topmost of the religion. Why? Because the Bhagavatam, all the cheating religions are kicked out in the first place. Dharma Pujita Kaitavatra. Research topmost religion always begins with chanting of the holy names of the Lord. Tan Nama Grihana Ripi. Therefore, this is the topmost principle of religion. So Prabhupada is definitely quoting Mahamapitya that when one returns back to God, it is ultimate perfection. Why? Because one will never want to come back again. So, so this yeah. Then Prabhupada also got this Savai Pumsam Paradharma, the first canto, first chapter. The Savai Pumsam. The topmost religion is that which evokes or invokes one's love for Krishna. This is the topmost of the religion which is being awarded to us. So how grateful and how committed we should be to take it up, and relish and cherish it and grow it. Let's stop here for today. Hare Krishna. So we thank all the devotees for attending this reading cycle. So we'll continue further in our next cycle, next week. Shri Bhagavatam ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai.